It's the Rob Carson Show. Are you ready to be pod smacked? Now, here's Rob Carson.
Welcome to episode number 215 of the Rob Carson Show podcast. Available on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Audio Boom, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Patreon.com, YouTube, and of course, the video podcast every evening, 7 o'clock on LibertyOneTV.com, LibertyOneTV.com. Are you a member yet? You should be, because it's inexpensive. It's 33 cents a day, okay? $10 a month, $99 a year. You're helping support free speech. A lot of pundits. We've got some news people on there. And, of course, my show every night, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 6 o'clock Central. Join today, will you? We'd greatly appreciate it. Also, Christmas shopping. Go to my politically incorrect swag. See these right here? These T-shirts and stuff right here. There it is. Okay. Just go to teepublic.com/user/conservatees. You can order any one of my politically incorrect slogans on stickers. You can get them put on T-shirts, hoodies, onesies, tank tops, whatever, mugs, laptop cases, phone cases, all of those things. Check that out and become a member of Liberty One TV, will you? We'd really appreciate it. All right. A lot of stuff on the plate today. I mean, a lot of stuff. Friday, the media was gleeful. There was a report by Brian Ross that Donald Trump had ordered Michael Flynn to get in touch with the election, or with the Russians during the election. Okay? During the election. Well, Brian Ross has been suspended for 4 weeks without pay because that was a lie. Didn't stop the media from going bat guano crazy, convinced that there is finally evidence of collusion between the Russians and Donald Trump's campaign during the election. Just not true, kids. Not true. Here it is.
There aren't many more dots after Mike Flynn, right? Your dots go to Kushner and then the president. There really are no other dots here.
Yeah.
This is a case that reaches directly into the heart of the Trump administration, into the Oval Office.
People now who have believed that the president's sort of loose way with information and facts was his best defense now think that the president is in danger and exposed.
I do agree. This is a big moment where if you're on the fence, you start to think.
When did wishful thinking become journalism? When did wishful thinking about your political enemies going down become journalism?
Jeez, is this whole thing going down? Is it Watergate?
Breaking news. ABC News' Brian Ross is reporting Michael Flynn promised
This is Joy Behar on The View.
full cooperation to the Mueller team and is prepared to testify that as a candidate, Donald Trump directed him to make contact with the Russians. Yes!
Okay, not true. Wasn't true. There is a possibility Brian Ross will not come back to ABC News. That's the latest. That not only has he been laid off. Now he's done this before. He tried to tie the Tea Party, I believe, into terrorist attacks. He's done a lot of this stuff, and this is just wishful thinking for a lot of different people, including Joy Behar, who's just such a disgusting harpy from hell. None of it's true. None of it's true. What we do know today is that Robert Mueller's office, the Justice Department, and the FBI have kept secret the fact that the FBI agent who oversaw the Russian investigation exchanged anti-Trump and pro-Hillary text messages with an FBI attorney who's also his mistress. The messages, the existence of which were revealed in a bombshell report published over the weekend, highlight a pattern of the Mueller team. They're loaded with anti-Trump, pro-Hillary hacks. Many of Mueller's prosecutors, it has been extensively reported, have made campaign contributions to the Clinton and Democrat political candidates. And a review by the Daily Caller shows that Mueller lawyers involved in the cases against 4 Trump associates are Democrat voters. This is a witch hunt, folks. Peter Strzok, that's the agent who exchanged text messages. It has been extensively reported it made political contributions to Clinton and other Democrat candidates. And he exchanged them with Jill Page, an FBI lawyer who worked briefly on the Russia investigation, perhaps the most significant evidence of anti-Trump bias uncovered so far on the Mueller team. The discovery could also undermine the integrity of Mueller's expansive investigation, because Strzok is the FBI agent picked in 2016 to supervise the then fledgling investigation into possible collusion between the Trump campaign and Russian government. Strzok's central role in the probe is already raising questions about how and why the collusion investigation was opened in the first place. Carter Page, former Trump campaign advisor, targeted in the early stages of the investigation, said that he is curious whether Strzok's fingerprints are on the secret surveillance warrant taken out against him in September 2016, just after he left the team. That was the Russian dossier, which was funded by Hillary Clinton. It was funded by Obama's PAC. It was funded by the DNC. It is unclear what information was used in the application for the warrant, though it has been reported that the infamous and uncorroborated Steele dossier was cited. It was used for it. It was an $11 million gamble to get the FBI to be able to wiretap Trump campaign and transition officials. That's what it was. Crooked as the day is long, thick as thieves, folks. Mueller inherited the Russia investigation this May when he was appointed special counsel after Trump fired Jim Comey. Many people are convinced that firing Jim Comey was illegal. It was meant to obstruct justice. Alan Dershowitz has other things to say about that. Here he is.
No, I don't. And I think if Congress ever were to charge him with obstruction of justice for exercising his constitutional authority under Article 2, we'd have a constitutional crisis. You cannot charge a president with obstruction of justice for exercising his constitutional power to fire Comey and his constitutional authority to tell the Justice Department who to investigate, who not to investigate. That's what Thomas Jefferson did. That's what Lincoln did. That's what Roosevelt did. We have precedents that clearly establish that when George Bush, the first, pardoned Caspar Weinberger in order to end the investigation that would have led to him. Nobody suggested obstruction of justice. For obstruction of justice by the president, you need clearly illegal acts.
Yep.
With Nixon, hush money paid, telling people to lie, destroying evidence. Even with Clinton, they said that he tried to influence potential witnesses not to tell the truth. But there's never been a case in history where a president has been charged with obstruction of justice for merely exercising his constitutional authority. That would cause a constitutional crisis in the United States, and I hope Mueller doesn't do that, and Senator Feinstein simply doesn't know what she's talking about.
Big surprise. But it's a witch hunt, and it's being driven by those who want to take out the president. Facts be damned. Facts and legality be damned. At least 9 of Mueller's prosecutors have donated Democrat political candidates. All of the legal actions taken so far in Mueller's investigation have involved pro-Democrat prosecutors. The lawyers working the money laundering case against former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort and his associate Rick Gates have donated to the Obama's presidential campaigns. Andrew Weissman, veteran Justice Department prosecutor, gave $2,300 to Obama's 2008 campaign, donated $2,000 to the DNC in 2006. Andrew Goldstein, who was working with the case with Weissman, contributed $3,300 to Obama's campaigns in 2008 and 2012. One of the top attorneys handling the case against former Trump advisor George Papadopoulos has also contributed heavily to Democrats. This is a political witch hunt. Robert Mueller should be fired. Of course, facts wouldn't impact Maxine Waters. Maxine Waters was on NBC Saturday making uncorroborated and unsubstantiated accusations about President Trump. Here she is, and remember, she's dumb as a box of rocks without the rocks.
This is the tip of the iceberg. There's lots more to come, and I think it's going to lead right to not only collusion, obstruction of justice.
Okay, well, there's no obstruction of justice. We just found that out from Robert Dershowitz.
Money laundering, it goes on and on and on. We are at a point in time in the United States of America with a president.
Spit it out.
Who is involved in all kinds of things that would shock people, I do believe.
You do believe, but you have no facts whatsoever. Everything this wretched, awful woman has to say is hearsay.
And so I know that...
Or the machinations of her tiny little brain.
I've been calling for impeachment. I know I've been criticized, but I know everything that I have learned.
She puts the ding in dingbat
about him and his allies, their interest in lifting the sanctions, their connection to Putin, their connection to the Kremlin. I know that we're going to find that this president needs to be impeached.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Absolutely no evidence whatsoever Only, I guess, her gut feeling. Here's a little bit more from the dingbat, Maxine Waters.
You know, the Republican Party is in...
Now, this is funny. She says the Republican Party is falling apart. The Democrat Party has fallen apart. The Democrat Party, their donations are way down. They have one message, and that is hate. That is their platform. It is not a platform for economic success. It is not a platform for lower taxes for Americans. It is a platform based solely on hate. And the fact that Donald Trump won the election, that's it. And it's about stopping his agenda as the economy is going through the ceiling, by the way.
Ray, I don't know that it is a party anymore. First of all, you're absolutely correct. They're silent. They aren't saying...
They got that tax bill through pretty much.
...anything. Tillerson called him a moron. People are questioning his mental health. And look, what they just did with this tax reform bill. They created a $1 trillion deficit when they're supposed to be the conservatives.
That I agree with, Honor.
Concerned about our budget, concerned about our expenditures. So I don't know who the Republicans are anymore. They're simply now tax and spend Republicans. They're simply Republicans.
And you're complaining about that. Why did you vote against it, you idiot?
Who are standing behind a president who's taking us to war, who's bullying, who's taunting, who's carrying us right into a war with North Korea. I don't know that there is a Republican Party. It is absolutely outrageous.
Well, let's talk about that.
Okay. We will get a little bit into possible military conflict with Korea. It's probably going to happen. It probably has to happen. And it's got to happen before the maniacal, insane Kim Jong-un puts a warhead on top of one of those missiles. It's got to stop before that. He has to be stopped before that. That's the cold, hard reality. We are dealing with a madman. We are dealing with someone who is insane. He is the one picking the fight. We are not picking the fight. Donald Trump is not leading us into war. Donald Trump just isn't going to take it anymore. This bloviation has been going on forever from North Korea. Donald Trump is the first president in at least 8 years to say, no, not acceptable. Not acceptable. We have several aircraft carriers in the South China Sea. We have scores of troops. We have a massive amount of our artillery and fighter jets. 6 of the most advanced American stealth fighters, the new F-22, joined fighter jets in South Korea on Saturday for a new round of war games. 4-day joint military exercise in South Korea. This following the just days after North Korea tested its latest intercontinental ballistic missile. We'll get into what Lindsey Graham has to say about it. He says we're on a war footing, guys. Cold, hard reality is that sometimes war is the answer. People who have these bumper stickers that say war is not the answer, sometimes war is the answer. And it sucks. It really does. James Robbins wrote of the Michael Flynn crime that if that's all Robert Mueller has, it's time to move on. Transition inside the president-elect talking to foreign officials, that's not treason. That's the job description. On Friday, President Trump's former national security advisor, Michael Flynn, pled guilty to lying to federal investigators about a perfectly legal conversation he had during the presidential transition team with then Russian ambassador Sergei Kislyak. Flynn should not have lied, and why he chose to remains a mystery, but the substance of the single count indictment against Flynn shows that special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation has strayed from its original purpose. Because they're grasping at straws, they're grasping at anything. That's why they got the FISA warrant, so they could get anything on the Trump team, anything, even if it had nothing to do with Russia. We've come down quite a way from the hyperventilation about Russia hacking the election a year ago. What happened to Democrat Senator Mark Warner's claim, later promoted by Hillary Clinton, that there were 1,000 Russian agents planning anti-Hillary fake news stories in key swing states, or that Russians had delivered Wisconsin to Trump. All the conspiracy theorists have so far are a few Facebook ads they can't credibly be shown to have changed one vote. Flynn was fully in his rights to make the call to Kislyak. Despite the best efforts of the anti-Trumpers, it is not illegal to talk to the Russians. Even Democrat former CIA Director and Defense Secretary Leon Panetta said it was a stretch. Days after the 2016 election, the Trump team cautioned the Obama administration against pursuing new and damaging foreign policy initiatives that did not align with Trump's priorities. And the Obama administration wanted to set the thing on fire and walk away calmly, like in an action movie. Trump asked Flynn, his soon-to-be national security advisor, to open a semi-official channel to Russia through its ambassador to discuss future cooperative efforts against the Islamic State and the United Nations vote on an anti-Israel resolution. Okay? The transition team feared for good reason that the lame duck Obama administration was poisoning the well with Russia. That's why they did it. This is how you roll. This is how business people roll. When you're hired, you start working before your first day. The Obama team had planned for the president-elect and senior officials to begin confidential policy consultations with key actors in U.S. and abroad between Thanksgiving and Inauguration Day. In 2008, then-candidate Obama arranged substantive foreign policy discussions with numerous foreign dignitaries and leaders during an overseas campaign trip before the election. The real obstruction might be found in the Mueller investigation itself. The legitimacy of the FBI witch hunt against Trump was further damaged by reports that the FBI investigator, Peter Strzok, who had spearheaded the investigation into Hillary Clinton's sketchy homebrew email server, was demoted because of anti-Trump texts, which we talked about earlier. The whole thing stinks to high heaven, guys. This is, again, James Robinson, USA Today. This is hardly an unbiased investigation. If the type of process crime that Flynn was nailed for is all Mueller can come up with, it's time to move on. I agree. Oh, I don't know if you knew this, but, while we're talking about sexual harassment and Washington, D.C. and Hollywood being thick as thieves and Washington Democrats knowing exactly what was going on in Hollywood with people like Harvey Weinstein and still taking massive amounts of campaign money from them. Okay? And they did. They knew exactly what was going on. Well, this has led to Washington, D.C. This has led to John Conyers and Al Franken, who, I haven't heard anything from Al Franken in a couple of days' view. No, he's laying low. He's laying low. Robert Kuhn, congressional career. Just as it's ready to start off, Nancy Pelosi's calling for his resignation. Sworn in January. May not even make it a full year on Capitol Hill because a former campaign finance director told BuzzFeed that she quit her job because of his repetitive sexual harassment. The woman's being called just Samantha began working early in the campaign. Her tenure began in December 2015. February, she claims that sexual harassment began. Suddenly, the 35-year-old who was plotting his way to one-seat Republican Congressman Crescent Hardy was repeatedly asking the 25-year-old staffer out on dates and for sex despite her constant objections. He went so far as to touch her thighs on at least two separate occasions. Samantha's accusations have a trail that leads right to the DCC, which she informed during Kuhn's primary. Democrats talked loudly about fighting the war for women. They turned their backs on this woman who was being sexually harassed by one of their rising stars last year. They were aware of his actions before he was elected, but they did not put up a roadblock to stop him. Instead, they focused on the fact that Kuhn was prepared to unseat sitting former congressman, Republican congressman, I should say. So they just looked the other way. Now, they're looking at Roy Moore and charges from 40 years ago. But here's a guy who was literally sexually harassing someone during the campaign. During this campaign, not 40 years ago. She had reported it to the Democrat Party. They did nothing about it because Democrats will circle the wagons no matter what the cost. Even if it means a war on women, though they claim they are warriors for women. Let's move on to North Korea. So, hundreds of aircraft, 24 stealth jets began training today. The United States and South Korea launched their biggest combined Air Force exercise. 7th Air Force sent major strategic military assets that include the F-22 and F-18 and F-35 stealth fighter jets for its annual training exercise. 12,000 U.S. military personnel participating. Some local media reported that B-1B bombers also joined the drill. Should the Korean Peninsula and the world be embroiled in the crucible of nuclear war because of the reckless nuclear war mania of the U.S. will have to accept full responsibility for it. That's North Korea. Their central news agency talking. H.R. McMaster, America's National Security Advisor, was speaking, I believe this was to Brett Baer on Friday about the situation with North Korea leading to war, possibly.
Well, it'll take some time to assess each of these missile launches, but what is clear is that every time he conducts a missile launch and nuclear test, he gets better. And whether it's a success or failure isn't as important as understanding that over the years, he's been learning from failures, improving, and thereby increasing his threat to all of us.
So has the potential of war with North Korea increased since this latest launch?
I think it's increasing every day, which means that we're in a race, really. We're in a race to be able to solve this problem, not just us, right, but the United States, all of our allies and partners. As we know, China has tremendous coercive economic power over North Korea. I mean, you can't shoot a missile without fuel.
Yep.
Right. And so there are ways to address this problem short of armed conflict. But it is a race because he's getting closer and closer.
And he's also getting ready to launch a submarine capable of launching intercontinental ballistic missiles, so they won't have to fire them as far when they're off our shores eventually. We're dealing with a madman. People are saying, Donald Trump is insane. No, Donald Trump is not insane. Donald Trump is dealing with an insane world. That isn't stopping the politicos on Meet the Press, including Danielle Pletka, Senior Vice President for Foreign and Defense Policy Studies at the American Enterprise Institute. She told, by the way, my nephew works there at the American Enterprise Institute, that there are whispers heard in Washington regarding President Trump and his mental health. Here is she this weekend.
We've had a lot of off-the-record concern from senators for quite some time. Democrats are giving voice to it. Republicans haven't. Will they?
I think Republicans are going to keep talking privately about the president, but I think it serves nobody to stand up and say, I think the president's crazy. He's the president of the United States. And that kind of thing is just, there's no political upside for Republicans, because then the next question is, okay, you think he's crazy? You think he's on drugs? You think there's something wrong with him? These are all the whispers we hear in Washington. Right. Then the next question is, so what are you going to do about it? And the answer from them is, well, we don't want to do anything about it.
Do you know what makes
the only people saying this are Trump's enemies. The only people saying this are Trump's enemies, anti-Trumpers on the Republican side, and Trump haters on the left. Trump supporters don't think he's crazy. I don't think he's crazy. I think he's dealing in a crazy world, and I think he's very Reagan-esque with regard to his policies, and he puts America first. I don't think he's crazy. I think he can be impulsive, certainly with the Twitter feed. Not particularly crazy about that. But I don't think it's a sign of insanity. I think it is a sign of he's like you and me. This is how he talks to you. This is why he has 63 million followers on Twitter. Here is Lindsey Graham, kind of a war hawk, actually, this weekend, talking on Meet the Press, I think it was. Here he is talking about the situation with North Korea and what we have to do.
Where are we with North Korea right now? We're getting close to military conflict because North Korea is marching toward marrying up the technology of an ICBM with a nuclear weapon on top that can not only get to America but deliver the weapon. We're running out of time. McMaster said that yesterday. I'm going to urge the Pentagon not to send any more dependents to South Korea. South Korea should be an unaccompanied tour. It's crazy to send spouses and children to South Korea given the provocation of North Korea. So I want them to stop sending dependents, and I think it's now time to start moving American dependents out of South Korea.
Okay. That's getting real close. And Lindsey Graham is in the know with regard to this stuff. They're not going to send spouses and family to be at bases in South Korea. This is getting very serious. A little bit more from Lindsey Graham.
The policy of the Trump administration is to deny North Korea the capability to hit America with a nuclear-tipped missile, not to contain it. Denial means preemptive war as a last resort. Yep. That preemption is becoming more likely as their technology matures. Every missile test, every underground test of a nuclear weapon means the marriage is more likely. I think we're really running out of the time. The Chinese are trying, but ineffectively. If there's an underground nuclear test, then you need to get ready for a very serious response by the United States.
Should the Congress be having a big open conversation about preemptive war?
Yeah, I think so. I think the president, as inherent authority as commander-in-chief, has the ability to strike North Korea to protect the American homeland. But this discussion needs to happen among ourselves.
Let me ask you about the president.
Okay. It doesn't get any more real than that. It just doesn't. And there's a reason why we have aircraft carriers over there now. And they've been there for a while. And we're building our forces over there. This is a scheduled 4-day military exercise. But it could easily become a real military exercise. I predicted on Friday on KFYI Radio in Phoenix, where I will be tonight from 4 to 7. Or from 5 to 8, I should say, Central Standard Time. Don't be surprised if you wake up and, like Desert Storm and like Desert Shield, you turn on the television and we are in the midst of a preemptive strike against North Korea. Don't be surprised. New bombshell report that highlights the failures of the Charlottesville Police Department during the White Nationalists Unite the Right rally in August claims that law enforcement on the scene feared direct attacks from far-left extremists, and that this may have even led to their refusal to intervene in the chaotic riot. According to the report, drafted by former U.S. Attorney hired by the city of Charlottesville, Timothy Heapy, spoke to multiple officers at all levels who expressed concern that normal arrest procedures would put officers in harm's way in the week before August 12th. The Virginia Fusion Center shared credible threats that a number of members of the ANTIFAH would bring soda cans filled with cement, might attack police. Then on the morning of August 12th, rumors circulated among CPD that ANTIFAH might attack officers with fentanyl. That's how they roll. They are a violent mob. The ANTIFAH is a violent mob. The apparent threat of violence against police from ANTIFAH reportedly led officers to avoid direct confrontation in the ensuing melee. Lieutenant Brian O'Donnell, commander of Zone 3, which is on 1st Street, wherever that is, instructed his officers to avoid engaging attendees over a little thing. Sergeant Robert Haney described his instructions he received as do not interrupt mutual combat unless someone is seriously injured. The report noted Lieutenant Maxine told the authors of the report that he was not sending guys out there and getting them hurt. The ANTIFAH is who they were worried about. The ANTIFAH. Latest sexual harassment allegations. Democrats. Playwright Israel Horovitz accused by 9 women of sexual assault. The incidents included cases of Horovitz kissing, groping, or forcing themselves on women when they were in their teens or early 20s, with the incidents dating as far back as the 1980s and as recently as last year. Horovitz issued an apology over the allegations, but claimed to have and this is what Alan Franklin said, different memory of some of these events. I apologize with all my heart to any woman who has ever felt compromised by my actions, and to my family and friends who put their trust in me, he told the New York Times. To hear that I caused pain is profoundly upsetting, as is the idea that I might have crossed the line with anyone who considered me a mentor. The leader of the New York Opera apparently sexually molested a teenager for years in Illinois. Horowitz's son, Adam Horovitz, the founding member of the Beastie Boys, said he believed the women's claims. He says, I believe the allegations against my father are true, and I stand behind the women that made them. Wow. After his former girlfriend, Joycelyn Meinhardt, accused his father of raping her when she was 19. Wow. Other accusers included an au pair who claimed he groped her breast and placed his hand on his erect penis, 16-year-old actors who played in one of his plays, pressed her against a wall, forcefully kissed her, and an aspiring playwright who considered him a grandfather figure before he allegedly kissed and groped her breasts. The report also reveals that in 1993, the Boston Phoenix reported on a series of misconduct allegations against Horowitz, although his company, the Gloucester Theater Company, ignored the claims against him. So everybody knew. Son knew. Unbelievable. John Hockenberry of NPR, 61 years old. He has been accused of sexual harassment. Several female workers. Christine Meinzer, producer for Hockenberry, recalled a creepy moment in 2014 when she scored him an interview with Oscar-winning actress Marion Cotillard. Hockenberry, who uses a wheelchair, responded with unwanted kisses. He rolled right up to me at my desk, grabbed my face, and started kissing me. I moved my head and pushed him away, and I said, no, please don't. He responded, I just want to kiss you because I'm so thankful. She said, no, a hug is fine, but I don't want to be kissed. Another producer recalled WNYC putting crew up in a hotel ahead of a storm in the winter of 2010-2011. Snowmageddon. John said, can we talk about something on the show? So I went to his room, which might seem stupid now, but didn't deem crazy then. We worked around the clock, the woman said. He came up, put his arms on mine, and kissed me, then said, I love you. We've always had this special thing. I pushed him away and said, this cannot happen. I ran out of the room. Hockenberry says through a publicist, looking back, my behavior was not always appropriate, and I'm sorry. It horrifies me that I made the talented and driven people I work with feel uncomfortable, and that the stress around putting together a great show was made worse by my behavior. Listen to this. He blamed his disability for his bad behavior. He says, having to deal with my own physical limitations has given me an understanding of powerlessness, and I should have been more aware of the power I wielded over others, coupled with inappropriate comments and communication could be construed. I have no excuses. Good. Bye. Bye. Goodbye, Democrat. So they're calling the allegations against all these men, whether they be Hollywood types or whether they be journalists like Matt Lauer or politicians, the perv-nado. The perv-nado. Comedy holiday parties will be serving far less alcohol this year. Concern that a boozy bonanza could lead to unwanted sexual advances. The number of companies serving alcohol at their holiday fetes this year is expected to drop from 49.7% from 62% last year. 11% are ditching the party altogether, according to Challenger, Gray, and Christmas. We expected this to be a blowout year for holiday parties, but this came as a real surprise to us. VP Andrew Tallinger told the Post sexual harassment is at the top of everyone's mind, but particularly the HR department, since they're responsible for creating a safe environment. So, thank you, Hollywood. Thank you, Washington, D.C. Thank you, mainstream media, perverts. Buffalo, New York wants to keep guns out of the hands of children and their toy guns. They did a toy gun exchange. Apparently, they've been doing this for a while. Community group has a strong message for parents this Christmas. They want to keep toy guns out of children's hands to prevent them from getting their hands on a real one. Here's part one of this story from WIVB.
This is a cat gun, and it sounds real.
This toy gun may just be filled with candy, but Leonard Lane with the Buffalo Fathers Organization says it doesn't need to be given to a child.
Whatever you put in the child's hands, that's where he feel comfortable with. And you put a toy gun in the child's hands at an early age, and when he get older, he's going to want the real thing.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
That's why Lane is encouraging parents to give up their child's toy guns this Christmas. As part of the annual toy gun exchange at the Delavan Grider Community Center, Lane says it's an effort to help stop gun violence by teaching children at an early age that guns are nothing to play with.
And I understand how a mother may feel, want to get something hopefully the child will like, but what we don't want to do is make a child feel comfortable with the toy gun.
Little kids like to play cops and robbers, but in the environment we live in, there's so much violence in this world that there's so many options, so many other options for a kid to have fun.
What about video games that have guns? What about that? You're using a game controller, but you're still shooting people. I think this is stupid. Giving a kid a toy car is going to want to make, he's going to want a car. I mean, really? Giving a kid a toy gun to play with is going to make him want a gun. My son had the Nerf ball guns. My son had Nerf dart guns. And these are just, they fire projectiles. I even had for a while, I had it looked like it looked like an AR-14 or AR-15. And it shot plastic BBs and it was fully automatic. And I let my son play with it. Hell yeah. It's cool. It's cool. And boys like guns. Here's part number 2 of the story from Buffalo.
Even with toy guns, they reach an age where they start taking off the orange tips and they start pretending that they're real guns and try and use them.
That's the parent's responsibility. If you buy a gun that looks realistic with an orange tip and they're a teenager, that's your responsibility. If I were going to get a gun, I wouldn't want a gun that looked exactly, my AR-15 looked real. But the other guns that I got him, they were water guns or they were Nerf guns. So it was very clear, that they didn't look like real guns. There are guns that you can buy that are different colors. There are guns that look cartoonish. I don't know about giving my son a very realistic gun that shoots real BBs like a 9mm unless you are going out and shooting target practice with him and you have control of that gun.
Robberies or other things, and really all that's going to do is get them hurt.
That's why the message to parents this holiday is clear.
Put down the guns and have some fun.
Put even the toy gun down.
Put something better in their hands, something that can better the child. They need to get something, a book, a football, something that can better them, make them a more productive citizen.
Yeah, your son wants a book. Books are nice. Books are nice. But kids got to play, So do a lot of politicians. They do a lot of playing, too. Police Service of Northern Ireland, the PSNI, posted a message yesterday drawing hundreds of mocking comments attacking the force for trivializing race. Or rape, I should say. He says, if you bump into that special someone under the mistletoe, remember that without consent, it is rape. Hashtag season's greetings. Here are some of the responses. Since when did a kiss under the mistletoe turn into rape? Get a grip and start being thief takes again, not half-arsed SGW social justice warriors. Okay, whatever. Bumping into someone under the mistletoe is now considered rape. Why do you trivialize such a serious issue with such a nonsense tweet? Mike Love said this tweet tells people that a kiss is rape. Do you realize what you've said? In a new message posted this morning, the Police Service of Northern Ireland said we posted a message on Twitter yesterday that some have taken out of context, but the message remains the same. When you are out socializing over the Christmas period, please remember without consent, it is rape. They also had previously faced backlash for social media posting about sexual violence when in March, the division posted an image of a distressed woman under the caption, without consent, it is rape, and a message warning people not to overindulge, which basically says that women can prevent rape by not drinking too much. So they apparently are a little ham-handed with their messaging, I'm thinking. Finally, Pink. Pink, pop singer, I think her music is great. I'm not a big pop music fan, but I think she's a terrific performer. And I've always just kind of enjoyed her attitude. Well, she's raising her children gender neutral. And the reason why she's doing that is that her daughter, at age 6, expressed a desire to marry an African-American woman. There's no concept of what marriage is. She might think it's just friendship. Maybe she looks up to an African-American woman. Now Pink is saying she didn't want her daughter Willow and 11-month-old son Jameson to be defined by traditional gender roles as they live in a label-less household. Yeah. Willow, of course, said she wanted to marry an African-American woman while hilariously explaining that the Todd informed her she plans to stay with her parents when she meets her wife, the African-American woman. Pink said, great. Can you teach me how to make African food? And she's like, sure, Mama. And we're going to live with you while our house is getting ready. So now she's not raising the child as a boy or a girl, and she's not raising her son as a boy or a girl. Yeah, they're just like us, aren't they? Hollywood types, music types, they're just like us. They're just like us. Hey, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this edition of the podcast. I hope you've enjoyed today's edition of Liberty One TV. Again, if you wouldn't mind, become a member, okay? Become a member of Liberty One TV. I think it's a terrific organization. I think you're going to get a lot of kick out of it. I think considering, what you pay for a lot of different things, like a cup of coffee every day, 33 cents a day is an incredible bargain. It's only $10 a month, $99 a year. You won't even miss it. It comes right out of the paycheck, right out of the checking account, I should say. So I'd appreciate it if you do it. It'd be terrific. In the meantime, also, spread the word about it if you would, and also spread the word about my podcast, available on iTunes and iHeartRadio, among other places. Just look up Rob Carson Show, and if you have an Alexa, just say, Alexa, play the Rob Carson Show podcast. And she will, the latest episode. And this has been episode number 215. Have a glorious and blessed day, and we will see you again tomorrow, guys.
To the Rob Carson Show. Friend him on Facebook at Carson Show, on Twitter at Rob Carson, and on Instagram, I think Facebook and Twitter are enough for now. We'll see you soon.